I spoke to the commander of their ground forces, General Pavlyuk, only a couple of days ago, who observed that they have lost ground due to the laggardly American debates over providing assistance. That assistance has now been authorized. It hasn't significantly arrived on the battlefield yet, by which I'm talking about long-range artillery shells and anti-aircraft systems. It will probably slow the coming Russian offensive that's expected this summer.
When President Biden signed a bill into law that provided $61 billion worth of extra aid to Ukraine, there were signs of relief in Kyiv. The package includes an array of artillery, rocket systems, anti-tank munitions and ammunition. But one of the Ukrainian army's most famous units, the Azov Regiment, won't be getting any of it. Let's speak to Times special correspondent Anthony Lloyd. Morning, Anthony.
Good morning.
Now, there was a time when we knew a lot about the Azov Regiment. We knew about what happened in Mariupol. We knew about some of the accusations of their of a Nazi past or Nazi connections. But just bring us up to date as to who they are today, who the Azov Regiment are today.
Sure. So basically, the Azov Regiment as it is has one entity at the moment, which is the 12th Azov Special Forces Brigade. Now, that was recreated after the Battle of Mariupol, when its predecessor, the Azov Regiment, was almost annihilated in the last stages of the siege, which 3-month-long siege. The Azov Regiment had led a pretty heroic defense of Mariupol before the survivors were forced to surrender, and over 900 of them still remain in Russian prisons. However, some of their leadership were subsequently released in prisoner exchanges, and they were reformed as the 12th Azov Brigade. Now, Azov are named in the recent appropriations bill by the Americans as being banned for assistance. Either the Americans will provide them with no arms, no training, or other assistance. However, the unit referred to in that ban is the Azov Battalion. It sounds just like a small difference in definition, but in fact, it's a very big difference. The Azov Brigade today is not neo-Nazi, as the cause of the American ban stipulates it is. And in fact, it's a fairly kind of multicultural organization. It is far removed from a kind of extremist ideology and a kind of prides itself on its martial identity. It's got a lot of Jews in it, some Muslims in it, and it's very far removed from what the American ban relates to, which is the Azov Battalion. And that was formed 10 years ago from a variety of ultranationalist and extreme right-wing groups, among others. That had a very checkered past and a very dodgy reputation. It seems that the American ban refers to that original unit, but has become misappropriated in banning arms and assistance to the current unit.
And is there any way around that? And also, what kind of impact does that have in terms of their ability to defend Ukraine?
Well, the immediate impact for the 12th Azov Special Forces Brigade will be quite heavy. I mean, they will receive no American weapons. They won't get any long-range artillery. And more to the point, as they said, they're not so much after American funding. They just say, look, we are among the best, if not the best, of Ukraine's infantry units. And why can't we go on training courses with NATO and Western Europe and have our NCOs and our officers trained as other Ukrainian officers and NCOs are trained up in Europe? I don't think there's much way around it. It requires presidential intervention in the US to lift that block. And unless there's a reassessment of who Azov are in America, it's very unlikely that block will be lifted.
And you've spoken to some of them. What did they say? Are they annoyed? Are they angry?
Yeah, they feel very hard done by. They feel that there are several generations removed from the original Azov battalion of 10 years ago. Incidentally, the commander of that battalion 10 years ago, who was the founder of Azov, who was an extreme right-wing politician with, radical ideology, believes in kind of racial purity in Ukraine, a guy called Andrei Beletsky. He's still around in Ukraine, very much so, and he's gone on to form and found another unit, the 3rd Assault Brigade, which doesn't suffer any American blocks and assistance because it hasn't got the word Azov in it.
Would they ever remove the word Azov?
I don't know. That's a good question, but I think it's also really important to mention that this is an extremely contentious subject in Ukraine and outside Ukraine too, because it lies at the heart of the matter of which is essentially Russia has tried to justify a war of aggression to dismantle Ukraine through a propaganda campaign saying it wants to denazify the country. Now, that is a bogus assertion, and it's part of a very aggressive disinformation campaign. Nevertheless, it means one's got to be very careful in one's the detail and words using in assessing what Azov are and what their influence is, so one doesn't fall prey either to Russian propaganda.
Yes. And just a final point, what are your kind of observations of where the war is? It doesn't seem to have moved on in the last 6 months or so, but what do you think?
I think it has moved on. I think the advantage at the moment is definitively at the moment with the Russians. As I'm sure many of our listeners will be aware, significant ground has been lost over the last weeks, over the last couple of months actually, by Ukrainian forces. I spoke to the commander of their ground forces, General Pavlyuk, only a couple of days ago, who observed that they have lost ground due to the laggardly American debates over providing assistance. That assistance has now been authorized. It hasn't significantly arrived on the battlefield yet, by which I'm talking about long-range artillery shells and anti-aircraft systems. It will probably slow the coming Russian offensive that's expected this summer. The war will continue. There's no immediate end in sight, and the Ukrainians have no option other than to fight on at the moment. But at the moment, the strategic advantages with Russia, how much that will change now American weapons and assistance arrive again in numbers in Ukraine, we shall see.
Anthony, thank you for that update. That is Anthony Lloyd. He is the Times' special correspondent.
Might be fine. Only chilling when you hear someone like him say it definitively. It is currently advantage Russia when it comes to the Ukraine war.